Okay, good afternoon. This is Nick Petro at the National Weather Service in Raleigh with your 1:30 update here on Wednesday, August 7th with regard to Tropical Storm Debby. This is the 11 o'clock advisory, so nothing new here since we did our 11:30 update. So again, that's pretty much as we've been watching things evolve. Here's a quick look at the radar, and you can see that band of rain lifting up north across eastern North Carolina. That band we talked about earlier that was offshore Wilmington is also moved ashore and lifted to the north. You can see that there's have been several tornado warnings in looks like Pender County here, and that band of showers is lifting to the north. So we're keeping a close eye on that here at the National Weather Service Raleigh, as that band will lift into the southern coastal plain region, into parts of the Raleigh coverage area. So far, these showers haven't produced a whole lot of rain. Let me switch screens and I will go to the rainfall estimates. And I've showed this one earlier as well. And this is 1 hour precip. Let me reload it real quick just to make sure that we have the latest values. And in the last hour, these downpours have been capable of producing about a quarter to a third inch, where you see these higher reflectivities. There's about a half inch right there along the coast. We have had about a quarter of an inch at the airport in Johnston County. So the rainfall intensity, the rainfall rates have been picking up, particularly where you see these darker greens and these yellows. Don't be surprised if you get under one of these. There's one, in fact, by Wendell, to get a quick quarter to a third inch of rain. So that's been the character of these bands. Real quick, look at the wind gusts, the latest wind gusts, and we could see that the highest wind gust, as has been the case all day and yesterday, have been along the coast, with gusts somewhere in the 18 to 25 mile per hour range with these heavier bands. So that's what we can expect with that. So again, real quick, looking at the current radar, again, where you see these higher reflectivities, and I'll pause it for a moment. Throughout the day, these higher reflectivities, these yellows and darker greens, will be capable of producing about a quarter to a third of an inch of rain in an hour. Now that rainfall rate there should not produce much in the way of flash flooding, okay? But when we start to get into the inch plus amounts per hour, which we are expecting later today, that's when we expect to see some of flash flooding impacts developing. We do have a special weather statement for southern Sampson County, highlighting basically these heavy downpours and gusty winds, so keep that in mind. So I know I promised during our last update that I would talk about some river flooding issues. Again, in terms of how much rainfall that we're expecting, just real quickly rather, if you go to weather.gov/Raleigh/NC, that will take you to our state forecast maps, and here is still our basically our 3-day rainfall total, which will include basically the rest of the event. So again, I'll summarize this in the big picture that we're expecting about 4 to 8 inches of rain through the duration of the Debby event crossing central North Carolina. 4 to 8 inches of rain. Some places will be, around the 4-inch mark. Some places will be closer to the 8-inch mark. Looks like the southern coastal plain, Sandhills region is more likely to see that upper end, where locations near the Virginia border will be likely to see those lower end amounts. So, but again, even still, anywhere in central North Carolina, there could be locally lower amounts and locally higher amounts. So please keep that in mind. So again, that's a lot of this is going to fall beginning late this evening through the overnight hours and through the daytime tomorrow. That's when the bulk of this additional rain will fall. Okay, so let's take a look at some river impacts, and to address the river concerns, I'm going to turn over the webinar here, the briefing, to our senior service hydrologist Barrett Smith to give the description of these next few slides. So Barrett, take it away.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Nick. Real quick summary here, showing areas we're really expecting minor to moderate flooding potential on the whole on our main stem rivers. There are a couple locations that we are looking at the potential for major flooding, and that's going to depend really highly on some of the amounts and the location and duration of the rainfall. This map here shows in the orange locations that are expected to get into minor flooding. Red would be moderate flooding, and then again 2 or 3 locations where major flooding is possible. These forecasts do only include 48 hours of rainfall. So from 8 a.m. this morning until 8 a.m. on Friday morning. That should, though, however, capture most of our rainfall. So we should be looking at everything that would impact the rivers at this point. Maybe there's some lingering stuff on Friday, but should not have a tremendous impact. It has been wet recently. You know, we turned the corner on our early season, our early summer drought, and it has been very wet recently. So the rivers are highly responsive to the rainfall, even if the forecasts have decreased somewhat. And these forecasts are based generally on about 4 to 8 inches, similar to what Nick showed for our 72-hour totals. Perhaps these forecasts that I'm going to show are medium to maybe worst case scenarios. They're likely incorporating the higher end of the ranges of our forecasts. But nonetheless, the rivers are very responsive to the rain at this point, and so we do expect some flooding, even if it may not end up being major flooding in a lot of locations. So I will skip first to the Cape Fear, which is likely the area that we have the highest confidence in flooding. The Cape Fear River Basin, so this is south of Jordan Lake. You can see minor flooding at Lillington, and then potential for moderate at Fayetteville, Manchester as well, just north of the Fayetteville area. And then the Black River at Tomahawk has been one that our models have been showing the most consistent potential for major flooding. And so that's one where we have some more significant concerns.
I think there's an issue. If you go back,
sorry.
Okay. For some reason, it's showing a different slide. It's showing the Cape Fear there. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay, well, we'll try to, perhaps some technical issues here, we'll try to show. Nick says that right now you should be able to see the Cape Fear River Basin, and I mentioned those areas, Lillington down towards Fayetteville. Again, minor to moderate with the potential for some major flooding at on the Black River in Sampson County, basically south of Clinton. Looking at the Neuse River, again, we're looking at minor to moderate river flooding potential there. There have been some indications that Smithfield could creep above the major flood stage there, but we've done some closer coordination with that, and we believe it's going to stay below, and so minor to moderate on the Neuse River. The Tar River Basin, and I'll note that this is going to be highly sensitive to whether or not we get a lot of heavy rainfall in the upper portions of the Tar. So basically from Lewisburg up towards the Oxford area. We really need that rainfall to fall in there in order for these types of river flood total or amounts to come to happen. And so you can see basically minor to moderate potential there down through the Tar River Basin. If we don't get heavier rainfall amounts up in the upper portions of the Tar, then some of the areas down towards Rocky Mount and the Tarboro area may not see as much flooding. So again, a little lower confidence here, and it's going to be very dependent on where the rainfall occurs. The upper regions of the Cape Fear, so the Hall River, these areas are more likely to see just minor flooding based on the current projections. If we do get some heavier amounts across Greensboro, Alamance County, we could see these forecasts increase, but at the moment it looks like the upper portions of the Cape Fear, the Hall River, only expected to see minor flooding. So that's basically what we have for our summary of river flooding this afternoon. Again, mostly minor to moderate based on the current projections and the current rainfall forecast. We'll certainly be updating these every 6 hours. Should be some new forecasts coming out by the 3 or 4 o'clock time frame for those interested.
All right, Barrett, thank you so much. If I could ask if you could stick around just for a minute. We've got a couple questions here. And John asked, could you please show us the slide with the list of rivers at risk of flooding again? So anyway, John, I am having some slight technical issues on my end, so I think this is the slide you were looking for, and I'll leave this on the screen for a while, and let you take a look at that. And okay, perfect. Okay, I see that's the slide you were looking for. Okay, very good. So anyway, that's the way we have it. Thank you so much, Barrett. Appreciate you joining. And so that's the latest what we have, and I'll leave this up here for just a minute. And Kevin asks, expected wind speeds as it moves across eastern North Carolina. Basically, we're looking at the central and in northern coastal plains. So Kevin, basically the same situation as earlier. We're expecting 25 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts, particularly anytime from this evening through overnight and during the day tomorrow. Any of those bands of heavier precipitation can bring the risk for those 25 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts. You know, if you get into a really heavy downpour, there could be something slightly higher than that, maybe 35 to 40. But Kevin, I wanted to really point out that it's not going to take a lot of wind to result in some downed trees and maybe some power outages, again, because of the soggy ground. These trees tend to fall really easy when the ground rather is very, very soaked as it is. So anyway, that is the latest as of this 1:30 briefing here. We're just going to watch things evolve. Again, these outer bands can always bring a quick little spin up, quick little tornado. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but we've got folks here at the National Weather Service keeping a close eye on these bands and seeing, tracking them as every minute as it updates. And if there is a risk for any type of rotation, or if we think there's going to be a possibility of a tornado touchdown, we will be issuing those warnings for tornadoes. But remember, there's very little, generally these outer rain band tornadoes do not provide a whole lot of lead time, so you don't want to waste time seeking shelter if you happen to be under one of these cells that might be producing a tornado. So if you get one of those tornado warnings on your phone, don't delay, immediately seek shelter. And then finally, as the heavy rain moves across tonight, and during the day tomorrow, certainly, again, I know I'm sounding like a little bit of a broken record here, but it's, bears repeating. Don't drive through areas where water covers the road, and I know everybody listening knows that, but remind your family, your friends, folks in your sphere of influence who may not be watching this or may not be paying attention, just to kind of remind folks around you, hey, don't drive into areas where it's flooding. So that's your 1:30 update here from the National Weather Service in Raleigh.